Here are the top stories for today, August 17, 2020. The Department of the Interior and Local Government is hiring more contact tracers to defeat COVID-19. More workers are mandated to undergo free swab testing to be shouldered by their companies. A local pharmaceutical company had expressed interest to reproduce COVID-19 vaccine developed by other countries. And a returning Negrense has made quarantine a fun learning experience for his two small children. Good day, I am Rom Dulfo. Welcome to PNA Newsroom. President Rodrigo Duterte is expected to announce the new classifications of community quarantine status in Metro Manila, Bulacan, Laguna, Cavite, and Rizal, which are currently under MECQ. The IATF has already submitted its recommendation subject to the approval of the Chief Executive. President Duterte earlier placed most parts of the country under the least restrictive Modified General Community Quarantine or MGCQ. Malacanang on Friday placed the provinces of Nueva Ecija, Batangas, and Quezon under General Community Quarantine from August 16 to 31, along with the cities of Iloilo, Cebu, Lapu-Lapu, Mandaue, and Talisay, and the municipalities of Minglanilla and Consolacion in Cebu Province. Meanwhile, Metro Manila mayors want a stricter General Community Quarantine or GCQ if ever the protocol is downgraded after August 18. During the meeting of the Metro Manila Council last night, MMDA General Manager Jojo Garcia said the mayors specifically pushed for the continued implementation of localized lockdown. He said they are leaving the decision with the Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases, or IATF. The Department of Labor and Employment is urging the hospitality, tourism, and manufacturing sectors to provide free swab testing for their workers. Under the Joint Memorandum Circular 2004, workers should be given free swab tests for the coronavirus disease 2019. Frontline and economic priority workers, or those who have high interaction with and exposure to the public, and those who live or work in special concern areas must also be tested once every quarter. DOLE also requires employers classified as large and medium-sized private establishments to provide shuttle services for employees. The memo is in coordination with the Department of Trade and Industry and took effect on Saturday, August 15. The Department of the Interior and Local Government, or DILG, maintains aggressive contact tracing is the key to the success of the COVID-19 response. Interior Secretary Eduardo Año says contact tracing plays a vital role in battling the surge of COVID-19 in metropolitan Cebu. It is also proven to be effective in containing the number of cases in Baguio City. While contact tracing efforts are already being done by more than 7,000 contact tracing teams, Año says there is a need to hire at least 50,000 more to meet the WHO recommended ratio of one contact tracer for every 800 people. Currently, the country has more than 85,000 contact tracers. PhilHealth says the suspension of its interim reimbursement mechanism, or IRM, will not affect the availment of COVID-19 benefits or any of its regular benefits by its members. It says the suspension will give way for its review in light of the recent Senate and congressional hearings. The agency strongly dismisses allegations of favoritism in the disbursement of IRM funds and assures that its COVID-19 benefit packages covers hospitalization, SARS-CoV-2 testing, and community isolation. It also acknowledged the continuing clamor of hospitals for the reinstatement of the IRM. PhilHealth says it will continue working with the legislators and all the investigating bodies in order to address all of their concerns. Meanwhile, the Senate resumed its panel hearing on the alleged fraudulent schemes and massive corruption inside the state-run agency. PhilHealth Chief Ricardo Morales apologized for suddenly leaving the hearing set by the House last August 12, saying he could hardly sit up, much less follow the discussion, as he just came from a chemotherapy session. Morales was diagnosed with diffuse large B-cell lymphoma and is undergoing chemotherapy. Senior Vice President for Legal Sector, Attorney Rodolfo Del Rosario Jr., also apologized for his absence during the hearing due to hypertension. The House of Representatives will not hold a plenary session for 2 days, starting today, August 17, until tomorrow, August 18. House Secretary General Attorney Jose Luis Montales says this is to allow members to focus on Bayanihan 2 and to give the committees ample time to conclude their hearings and finish their reports on priority measures. The House Committee on Appropriations and Senate Committee on Finance are expected to conduct a video conference to reconcile the disagreeing provisions of the House and Senate versions of the proposed Bayanihan to Recover as One Act. And as the House recorded its 44th case of COVID-19 on Sunday, various committees are encouraged to virtually conduct hearings to give ample time for a thorough disinfection of all offices and facilities and give employees a brief respite from the aggravation caused by the spike of COVID-19 cases. About 3,000 tricycle and pedicab drivers in Pasay City received food packs, face shields, and face masks from the Sangguniang Kabataan of Barangay 76. Some 3,000 food packs, 3,000 face shields, and 15,000 face masks are handed over to the local government as part of its initiative to prevent local transmission of COVID-19 in the barangay level. Mayor Emmy Calixto Rubiano has instructed the Pasay's Tricycle Pedicab Franchising and Regulatory Office to immediately distribute the donated items to the tricycle and pedicab drivers working within the city. Meanwhile, Pasig City government has launched a transport microsite to ease transportation issues of the residents availing of the free shuttle services. Transport microsite provides residents with current updates on the operating hours and bus routes of Pasig's Libreng Sakay. It also contains guidelines on how to use bike lanes and pinpoint locations of public bicycle racks for parking. Residents are also urged to use the microsite to report any transport violation found within the city. The Department of Social Welfare and Development reports it has served over 12.51 million family beneficiaries, a day before its target date to complete the payouts of the second tranche of the Social Amelioration Program. The DSWD said it has distributed 74.5 billion pesos worth of cash subsidies as of August 14. The 11 areas covered by SAP2 are Central Luzon, except Aurora Province, NCR, Calabarzon, Benguet, Pangasinan, Iloilo, Cebu Province, Bacolod City, Davao City, Albay Province, and Zamboanga City. DSWD spokesperson Irene Dumlao assured the public that despite the increasing number of COVID-19 cases among its personnel, the distribution of SAP and the implementation of its regular Pro-Poor programs will remain unhampered. The agency recorded 160 confirmed cases of COVID-19 with 1 death and 57 recoveries. DSWD Secretary Orlando Bautista meanwhile clarified that his department did not overlook the driver's sector in providing aid amid the health crisis. He said the DSWD has distributed more than 857 million pesos in aid to more than 100,000 TNVS and PUV drivers nationwide. This came after reports that some jeepney drivers have resorted to asking for alms on the street during the community quarantine. Bautista earlier explained that about 24,000 PUV and almost 2,000 taxi drivers are already beneficiaries of the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program of 4Ps, which is why they were excluded from the LTFRB list. Still to come, Northern Mindanao has been preparing to reopen the region's tourism industry amid the COVID-19 pandemic. And COVID-19 opens a window of opportunity for a public school teacher who became an entrepreneur. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Sa matinding laban natin sa Coronavirus Disease 2019, sugpuin din natin ang pagkalat ng fake news. Huwag magbahagi ng impormasyon na hindi tiyak ang pinagmulan. I-check mabuti ang source ng balita. Kumuha lamang ng impormasyon mula sa mga official channel ng Department of Health. Huwag magpadala sa maling balita. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa. Kaya natin to. Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito. Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to. Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching PNA Newsroom. Thank you for joining us. Northern Mindanao is gearing up to reopen the region's tourism industry to local tourists amid the prevailing COVID-19 pandemic. DOT Northern Mindanao Director May Salvania Unchuan emphasized the importance of complying with minimum health standards before tourism establishments are allowed to reopen. However, she also admits that the biggest challenge lies in restoring tourists' confidence in travel as COVID-19 cases continue to increase. To address this, she said Northern Mindanao has started creating video content on how tourism establishments are preparing for the new normal. Vanya Anchuan expressed hope that local governments will continue to show tourists that it's okay to travel as long as health and safety precautions are observed. Northern Mindanao is paying special attention to special tourism projects amid plans to reinvigorate the tourism industry when the situation improves. Various local government units in Central Visayas have begun implementing the Department of Agriculture's Gulayansa Barangay program. The region has established more than 6 GSB model farms in Siquijor, in Bohol, Cebu, and Negros Oriental. The GSB targets to set up 345 farms in the region. The program aims to ensure that households have access to diverse, nutritious food throughout community and backyard gardening. Under its guidelines, the program will give priority to nutritionally vulnerable provinces and regions based on the Philippine Plan of Action for Nutrition 2017-2022. DA7 Executive Director Salvador Diputado said this is one of the continuing programs of the DA that is gaining popularity, especially during this time of the pandemic. Diputado said that because of Agriculture Secretary William Dar's call to increase food production, LGUs have welcomed GSB and committed to supporting the DA's Plant program. Baguio City reports 22 new infections caused by contact with previous patients. Meanwhile, a school in Davao City used by locally stranded individuals is said to undergo double disinfection. William Theo with more.
Baguio City logged the highest number of COVID-19 cases in a single day on Saturday, August 15, with 22 of the 27 new infections being close contacts of patients. The oldest among the new cases is a 67-year-old male who passed away on Saturday. 8 of the new cases, including a 1-year-old baby, are minors who contracted the virus from earlier confirmed patients. Baguio now has 241 total confirmed coronavirus cases since March. In Cagayan de Oro City, a mall and one of its locator shops could be facing penalties for allowing hundreds of shoppers to crowd the establishment while ignoring health protocols on Saturday. The city's Regulatory Compliance Board said the Interagency Task Force's law enforcement cluster is now investigating the sale by the Planet Sports store at Limquetcay Mall. The sale was supposed to run from August 15 to 21 with discount on branded shoes and apparels as low as 80%. The report of overcrowding came at a time when the cases of COVID-19 in the city have gone up due to the arrival of returning residents. In Davao City, Barangay Lasang Chairman Alan Simoag has assured that the A.L. Navarro Elementary School and National High School used as patient care center undergo double disinfection once vacated. The remaining 79 locally stranded individuals comprising the second batch of beneficiaries of the Hatid Tulong program were sent home Saturday after completing the 14-day quarantine. Simoag said teachers are advised not to report to the school until after the disinfection is completed. He said, should the city government need an additional facility to be used as part of the COVID-19 response, he will suggest the Alcantara property in Barangay Lasang, which is now owned by the city government. For the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo.
A producer of Moron, latest most popular delicacy, took the COVID-19 pandemic as an opportunity to improve and keep the business afloat. When the city's Pasalubong Center shut down last March and April, Catherine Manaog Jordan, owner of Mary's Late Deli, thought their 20-year business would collapse. Mary's Late Deli produces Moron, a rice delicacy similar to suman and binagol or molded sweet root crop. Jordan turned to digital marketing for the past 3 months and has linked with new resellers in Luzon, the Visayas, and Mindanao. Through digital marketing, their business has strengthened partnerships with resellers in Pasig City, Cebu, Lapu-Lapu, Mandaue, Bohol, Dumaguete, Davao, Tagum, Cagayan de Oro, Zamboanga City, and Surigao. Recently, Mary's Late Deli gained attention after bagging the region's top seller award during the One Town, One Product Pasinaya virtual trade fair held on July 23 to 24. Jordan's business is a beneficiary of various programs of DTI and the Department of Science and Technology over the years. A simple act of kindness has evolved into a thriving business, keeping the Anilao community in Iloilo afloat amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Public school teacher Jelly Buico started her flourishing anchovy business with just a kilo of anchovies costing 480 pesos. On June 16, she received a kilo of anchovies from a co-teacher who regularly supplies her with dried fish. She cooked them and left one half for frontliners as part of their meals. Her co-teachers learned of her anchovies through a Facebook post from her husband. She then began to sell batches of anchovies and experimented on variants. Residents of Anilao, such as call center workers and her former students, soon offered to become resellers for additional income. Through her resellers, her products have been shipped to Luzon and Mindanao. Buico's associates say her business is helping a community thrive amidst the pandemic. In our business news, the Department of Trade and Industry appealed to Congress to provide support for the manufacturing sector under the Bayanihan 2. DTI Secretary Ramon Lopez is proposing for a policy intervention for the manufacturing sector so that it will also be included among those who are receiving government assistance. The manufacturing and construction sectors accounted for 40% of the gross domestic product decline in the second quarter of the year. The sector is also facing other challenges such as decline in demand, decline in workforce productivity, and cost escalation, and foreseen competition from imports. Lopez is urging the Congress to allocate at least 50 million pesos to enable industrial sectors to better respond and adapt to COVID-19. Up next, a local pharmaceutical company had expressed interest to reproduce COVID-19 vaccine developed by other countries. And a returning Negrense has made quarantine a fun learning experience for his 2 small children. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Alamin kung paano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask. Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat, mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
A local pharmaceutical company has expressed interest to produce a COVID-19 vaccine that other countries may develop. DOST Undersecretary Rowena Cristina Guevara said the Technical Advisory Group for Vaccine Industry met with 9 pharmaceutical firms last week regarding the fill and finish type of manufacturing. The fill and finish type of manufacturing is where the filling up of vials, injection, ampules, or container for the vaccine takes place at the end of the process, and then the vaccine is labeled and packaged for transport. Meanwhile, DOST Secretary Fortunato de la Peña said the meeting also tackled bilateral agreements and the World Health Organization solidarity trials. De la Peña said partners in China are already finalizing the confidentiality data agreements with DOST so that they can provide preliminary data of their vaccine candidates for review. Discussions are ongoing with various vaccine manufacturers in India, Japan, Canada, Russia, and the US. In our foreign news, non-government organizations have been working tirelessly to revive Beirut after the devastating port explosion on August 4. The explosion in the Lebanese capital, filled with nearly 3,000 tons of ammonium nitrate, took at least 200 lives, also leaving around 6,000 injured and 300,000 people homeless. Volunteers are spreading throughout the streets, each looking after a certain area so the trauma could be managed properly. Simple medical aid is provided to the injured in the form of first aid, stitches, and various medicines. Others are checking the state of the building hit by the blast, especially historical and religious places. Local actress and volunteer Sarah Abby Kanan said the only hope the rescue society is being and standing together. She adds, all Lebanese feel traumatized, but now is the time to show resistance and resilience. 2 members of the New People's Army died after clashing with government troops in Camarines Sur. Another NPA rebel is reported killed after fighting with soldiers in Misamis Oriental. More on this from Marita Moahe.
2 New People's Army rebels were killed on Saturday in a clash with government troops in Barangay Olas, Lagonoy Town in Camarines Sur. Joint elements of the Army and police were conducting security operations in response to a report of some residents about the presence of rebels in the area when they encountered at least 15 members of the communist terrorist group. The gunfight resulted in the killing of the NPA members and recovery of 4 assorted rifles and propaganda materials. Brigadier General Henry Robinson Jr., Joint Task Force Bicolandia Commander, said the operation foiled the attempt of the CTG to carry out its terroristic acts in the 4th district of the province. In Misamis Oriental, the Army's 58th Infantry Battalion on Sunday confirmed that 1 female NPA rebel was killed during an encounter in Balason, Gingoog City. The Army unit identified the rebel as Brenda Sereño, originally a resident of Sitio Camansi, Barangay Banglay, Lagonglong Town. Government troops encountered around 20 NPA fighters on August 13, and after the firefight, the troops discovered the female NPA rebel abandoned by her comrades. The unit says it hopes that Sereño will be the last person to sacrifice her life just for nothing. Meanwhile, a surrendered rebel on Saturday urged parents to keep their eye on their children to prevent the CPP, NPA, and DF from exploiting them and other vulnerable sectors. Rolando de la Cruz, one of the 6 former rebels, appealed to parents to help the government save the youth from joining terrorist groups. The surrenderer is among the 82 former members and supporters of the CPP-NPA-NDF who took their oath of allegiance to the government in Barangay Cozo, Casiguran, Aurora. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Marita Muaje.
The Archdiocese of Manila appointed 4 San Roque parishes under the Archdiocesan Churches of Intercession amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Manila Apostolic Administrator Bishop Roderick Pabilio supported the petition appointing the parishes in Blumentritt and Sampaloc, Manila, Pasay City and Mandaluyong City on the recommendation of the Archdiocesan Liturgical Commission and the Judicial Vicar of the Archdiocese of Manila. The parishes under the patronage of San Roque will be organizing devotional and liturgical activities and other programs for the sick, frontlines, and less fortunate during the pandemic. San Roque or Saint Roch is the patron of persons with terminal illnesses and contagious diseases, dog lovers, and plagues. Roman Catholics celebrate his feast day every August 16. With a new school year starting under the so-called new normal, a returning Negrense made quarantine a learning experience for his 2 children by turning their quarters into an improvised kindergarten. Photos and videos of Michelle Boncelaya teaching his young ones the basics such as the alphabet, numbers, colors, and shapes made the rounds on social media. The Celaya family were staying in their quarantine facility at a public school in Bagos City, Negros Occidental. They were among the thousands of locally stranded individuals, or LSIs, who came from Metro Manila on July 31. The 29-year-old father turned their 14-day journey into a fun school time for the kids, being documented by his wife, Cheryl Love, which he then posted on Facebook. In the course of the quarantine, Bon said they received their swab test results showing they all tested negative for COVID-19. Bon said he and his wife committed to being hands-on parents when it comes to teaching their children, especially that face-to-face learning is still not allowed. Here's the latest in our community billboard. Voter registration is resuming on September 1, but satellite registration activities will remain suspended. The Commission on Elections, however, said in cities or municipalities with 0 COVID-19 cases in the last 14 days, the Office of the Election Officer may conduct satellite registration subject to additional conditions. On Saturday, the COMELEC announced the resumption of voter registration next month, except in areas under enhanced community quarantine or modified ECQ. Applications for registration may be submitted from Tuesday to Saturday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the OEO. Anti-COVID precautions will be implemented, such as physical distancing, wearing of face masks and face shields, and encouraging applicants to bring their own pens. Registrants will also be required to fill out a coronavirus self-declaration form. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. The Department of the Interior and Local Government is hiring more contact tracers to defeat COVID-19. More workers are mandated to undergo free swab testing to be shouldered by their companies. A local pharmaceutical company had expressed interest to reproduce COVID-19 vaccine developed by other countries. And a returning Negrense has made quarantine a fun learning experience for his 2 small children. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. I am Rom Dulfo. Good day and keep safe.